You can go, Ethan. Sorry.
It's offline. No.
Hi.
Good evening, welcome to this meeting of full council for Bletchley and Fenny Stratford Town Council, which is being held here at Newton Lees Pavilion on Tuesday the 30th of April 2024. I am Nathaniel Kelly Wilson and I am chairing this meeting. Before we start, there are some housekeeping points to note. We are not expecting a fire drill this evening, so if the fire alarm sounds, please leave as quickly as possible. The fire exits are located at the front avenue of this room, and the fire assembly point is located at the far side of the car park. The toilets are located behind us. Please could you turn your mobiles off or put them to silent? We want everyone to be able to hear, so please respect whoever's speaking by not chatting amongst yourselves. You should also be aware that tonight's meeting is being recorded and the recording may be streamed on our social media channels. No members of the public tonight. This meeting will be held entirely in public except for any agenda items where it becomes necessary to exclude members of the public for a particular reason. That will be put to the council as a resolution if that is needed during the meeting. Any decisions made about these items during any closed session will be recorded in the draft minutes and will be available on our website as soon as possible. Okay, so we'll now move on to the agenda. If we could have any councillors' apologies for absence.
Yes, apologies from councillors Bedford, Palmer and Osamili.
Councillors, I would like to move a resolution that we formally accept Councillor Palmer's apologies, and you're aware of his reason for not being able to attend council at the moment. Do I have a seconder?
So yes.
All those in favour? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is to note any declarations of interest in matters on the agenda. Any members have any interest this evening? I do have, I would like to note an interest, not a pecuniary interest, in item 8, which is regarding feedback to Milton Keynes Council for the street names in Newton Lees. I'm a resident of Newton Lees and I have an interest, but I do not believe that pecuniary is one. So that's what I noted. Okay, next items on the agenda. Sorry.
I can't remember which item it is, but there's an item on regarding Albert Street toilets and the landlord of Milton Keynes City Council. And currently, starting from Thursday, maybe beyond that, I don't know, I am an elected member of Milton Keynes City Council.
If we can then go on to item number 3, which is to approve the draft minutes of full council held on Tuesday the 26th of March 2024, pages 1 to 6 in your pack. I am fully expecting that councillors will have read them before they came to this meeting this evening, and unless anybody states otherwise, I'm going to accept them as read. Is that okay, councillors? Thank you, I would take that. Next item on the agenda is normally public speaking, but I do not believe that we've got either anyone online or here today.
No representations today.
Okay, next on to item 5 of the agenda, 5.1, to consider the minutes of the meeting of Tuesday the 16th of April of the Community Committee, pages 7 and 8 of your pack. Were there any recommendations within that? Okay, so are you happy to note the content of these minutes?
Noted.
Noted, thank you. Item 5.2, minutes of the finance meeting held on Tuesday, the 23rd of April of the Finance and Governance Committee. Were there any recommendations within this?
There are several recommendations, most of which are on the agenda in their own right. But there is one that hasn't been specified on the agenda in any other way, and that is the recommendation at minute reference SC 2425, number 13, funding of refurbishment of Albert Street public conveniences. And there is a resolution to recommend to full council that half of the underspend for the financial year be set aside to go towards this project. I wonder if it might be more logical for that recommendation to be considered when you look at the terms of reference for the public toilets, which is an agenda item later on.
I think so. Yeah, we'll do that then. Thank you very much. So, everybody then happy to note the notes of the Finance and Governance Committee of the 23rd?
No, please.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda, item 6. To note the final internal audit report for the financial year 2023 to 24, as recommended to you by the Finance and Governance Committee on the 23rd of April. Just a note to all councillors that it is every councillor who is responsible for the financial regulations within this council, whether they sit on the Finance Committee or not. And so by actually accepting this recommendation, you are stating that you agree with the contents of the said report. That's pages to 13 to 20 in your pack. Any comments or questions? Thank you, Ed.
I noticed there were no issues raised in there at all, which is always a good thing to see as a councillor. But I think it's also worth just, I mean, this is a very processy type thing. And so the work of the Finance Committee, but actually the work of the officers to make sure that we're in a strong position in terms of our controls and audit, and that there are no issues to be reported from the auditor. I think, thank you very much to those officers involved.
Thank you to the officers. No questions either. So I will move that. We note the final internal report for 23-24. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. All those in favour? Any abstentions? And anyone against? No. So I think that is carried unanimously. Thank you. 6.2. To note, this is pages 21 to 40 in your pack, and this is changes to financial regulations as recommended by the Finance and Governance Committee. Would anyone like to speak on this? Yeah.
For me to say something, the Chair? Yeah. Obviously, this was reviewed by the Finance and Governance Committee. There are very limited changes in the regulations. There's been some uplifts in thresholds in terms of the public procurement regulations. There used to be a £25,000 limit. Above that, it would have to go to formally tendered on a government website. That limit, that light touch limit, has now been increased to £30,000 per annum. And there's a couple of other uplifts on the bigger procurement thresholds. That's the only changes.
Members, so I will move that we adopt the changes as recommended by the Finance and Governance Committee. All those in favour? Anybody against? Any abstentions? That is carried unanimously. Okay, next item on the agenda, 6.3, to approve the annual governance and accountability return, otherwise known as an AGAR, as recommended by the Finance and Governance Committee on the 23rd of April. That is pages 41 to 46 in your pack. And if you are happy to approve this, then I will be able to sign the return and it will be published by the council. Is there anything you wanted to say in relation to this?
Yes, Chair, just to highlight, obviously I made a point of making the Finance Governance Committee aware, but when you approve this AGAR, you are actually, again, as per the internal audit report, you are signing it, and you're signing on the basis that you're assured that all you've got a sound system of financial control within the organisation. So I'd just like to highlight that, you know, the responsibility is for the full council within the organisation. Sure. So I'd just like to highlight.
Okay. Any questions or any comments that any councillors want to make on the AGAR? No? Okay, so I will move that we approve the annual governance and accountability return as recommended by the Finance and Governance Committee. All those in favour? Anybody against? Any abstentions? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 6.4, which is to approve the Town Council's continued use of Milton Keynes City Council's framework offered by the Laser Energy Buying Group for the supply of gas and electricity. Is there anything that you would like to say about this?
Yes, Chair. Just a quick point. Obviously, we've been part of the laser contract for several years now, and I just did a sample of the prices that we were charged last year in terms of electricity supply. The per kilowatt charge with the laser contract was 28 pence per kilowatt hour. And actually, all the other contracts, it did vary, but they were substantially over that rate. So I do think we get a benefit from being part of the laser contract. It's economies of scale, basically.
Any members got any comments or questions in relation to the laser contract for energy?
Chair, may I ask a question? Thank you, Alison. Did we compare with any other group buying opportunities, or is this the only one that we have?
This is the only one we have because it's through Milton Keynes Council. I'm not aware of any other opportunities in terms of all the other supplies of electricity and power. We procure it on a separate basis every time.
May I ask a follow-up before I come to? Sorry. The only other question I had is the sustainability of the energy that we're procuring. Obviously, we need gas for some of these that still have gas, but the electricity, how green is the electricity supply that we're getting through that group?
I couldn't comment on that. I could do some work on it, but ultimately I've actually procured, to be honest, generally on the basis of cost. I have limited that to 12-month contracts at a time. So.
May I make a suggestion?
Should we just go to Ed first and then come back to you? Ed.
I think it's fine for what we're talking about tonight. My understanding is that through the framework, energy can be bought a year and it is basically bought a year in advance. So these comparisons you've done.
Yeah, that is to.
Is that based on
last year's?
To last year's,
yeah.
Because obviously if you buy it a year in advance, then next year our prices are going to be higher. But if the market drops. Then we're a year behind. And there's swings and roundabouts to that, but
there is. I totally agree, Councillor. Yeah, and it gives us consistency. You know, we are fixing a rate for a period of time.
I'd just like to make a point, if I may. It's quite a lot of work on an annual basis. That's what we're doing. And you know, if council is minded to. We don't have to buy through the framework, but we have to be on the framework to be eligible to buy through the framework. So I think it's quite important that we continue this framework. But if council wishes to suggest other methods and other criteria that should be considered rather than price, then that's for members to put that forward as a as a detailed report, and we can adopt it into our processes.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, thank you, Delia. I would like to make a proposal or a suggestion following on from that. I'm not sure whether we need to amend anything because we already have objectives set, and we have, at least in draft, and we adopted this a while ago, a policy that we can help to guide us in the selection of our suppliers. So it's about sustainability, obviously value for money, and all of that good stuff. So I don't think we necessarily need to adopt anything new, if I'm not mistaken, but just like us to maybe do a little bit more research before we sign on the dotted line for another year, just to make sure it does match with our policies and objectives.
Sorry, I think what you said there is that you would like us to conduct further research on how clean the energy that we are procuring is. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's about the sustainability, yes. And I'm just referring back to the policy that we have, the environmental policy, and make sure that it just matches up.
Thank you, Keith.
I would like to make a proposal that we accept the current arrangements certainly for another year. And if there are further advantages discovered during that next financial year, that's investigated for the following year.
Okay, so we've got a proposal on the table already here, which, are you happy for that to be amended or, sorry,
Chair, I'd just like to point out, it's not just for the first 12 months. It's when we sign up to the laser contract, it is a period of 4 years.
Yeah, that's fine.
So for clarity, are we signing a renewal for the energy or a renewal to the laser contract?
Renewal to the laser contract,
Okay.
who will then procure, it will, I imagine, be on a price comparison rather than how sustainable that electricity is.
Do they have different offerings throughout that, or is it just one package for every council?
It's one package for every council.
Okay.
It is buy in bulk effectively.
Okay. So does that influence your...
The proposal is, just to be clear, folks, the proposal is before we sign for the renewal of this agreement, that we just double check that the package we're getting is not just good value for money, but it's also in agreement or alignment with our stated objective to be sustainable, and that's all I'm asking.
If you accept the amendment tabled by Keith, what he's saying is that we would sign up for that agreement or do as you say. However, no change, if there was a change, could happen for a year's process. But I think you've just said we would be on the same package for 4 years. So do you accept the amendment or not?
Can I just make a point? Milton Keynes Council has got very similar policies with regards to sustainability of electricity supply as this town council has. They're as committed to carbon neutrality as we are. So I think it's unlikely that they're not procuring, they're only procuring on price, but I couldn't say that. I don't know, and I don't think Alison knows.
No.
So that's one thing we could look at, but the opportunity to sign is limited. We have to sign by, I think it's, I haven't got the date to hand, but it's certainly during May. It's certainly something like the 20-something of May. We have to sign by then. And if we don't sign, we lose the opportunity to procure this system.
Okay,
Chair,
thank you.
may I make an amendment to my proposal?
Right.
In the light of that and Councillor Ely's comments, I would propose that we do sign for the renewal of this agreement and that we double check that our assumption that this procurement contract is matching up with our policies and the assumption of the net zero policies of Milton Keynes Council is accurate. If we find it to be not accurate, I would like to have, and I won't be here for this sadly, but I would love to have a report back by either the finance manager or the clerk to report on this, because then we can use our position as members of this agreement to call them to order and say you are not aligned with the policies.
Okay, can I add, I'd like to make an amendment to that, which is all of that plus if there are options available, that we sign up to the cleanest option available, but balancing cost and kind of cleanliness of energy, if you will accept it.
I would accept that, Chair.
Okay, all right, so is everybody happy with that? No?
It's messy.
Okay.
How is it messy?
Do you understand what we said?
Yes, I've got it written. I've got it written down.
Could you?
So to conduct further research, and if we do, before we do sign up for the renewal, and to double check that the procurement that's been undertaken by the Milton Keynes Council does match our objectives in terms of carbon neutrality, that we report back on this. And also, if there are options available to sign up to a clean option within the framework, we make sure that that's what we're doing.
I wouldn't pick clean over cost. I think it's about thinking about everything in the round.
To set up, to consider cleanliness and cost.
Okay, any comments on that before we go to a vote? No? Okay, all those in favour of the amended proposal? Okay, sorry, can we have a clear hand? All those in favour? Okay, anybody against? And any abstentions?
It is carried.
Okay, so that is carried. Okay. Next item, so any comments, anything else we need to do with that?
No.
No, okay.
I think what we'll do is we'll try and find out as much as we can, and before the annual meeting.
Next week.
Yeah, to see if there's anything useful we can bring back to reassure.
Next item of the agenda is to approve the draft annual report of Town Council. Item 7, it is tabled. You should have this item on your desk, and it's just to approve the draft annual report and to make arrangements for next week's, sorry, not next week, for the week after, the annual meeting of electors on Tuesday the 14th of May.
Yes, I'm sorry that the draft copy of the report is only tabled tonight. We have to rush to get it done. We won't be publishing it until the day of the annual meeting of electors on the 14th. So if members find urging or that's unfortunate, or find anything that's missed out or things they don't like, if they want to come back to us with that, we've still got time to amend the report before it's published. But if you want to go through it, or if you want to give people time
I do not propose that we scan through it. I think Deep can take it home and go back to Naomi with any comments, or do you
to John or myself.
To John or Delia?
Yeah.
Okay.
And also to note that I've also tabled the agenda of the annual meeting of electors, which has been sent out to you anyway, separately. But I would like to note that, ideally, the annual meeting is an opportunity for the council to present its work over the past year. And one of the items, the first item, is to give a presentation on the work of the council. Now, in the past, it's always fallen to the chair of the council to do that, but good practice is for more councillors to be involved in that presentation, to perhaps speak about different aspects of the council's work. So I would like to ask if anyone is willing to support the chair in delivering part of that presentation or speaking about something.
I was going to say, I think it would be very good for the chairs and vice chairs of each committee to not to do anything really kind of complicated, but just present a slide on what they've done in the year. And I think that could even not put it on one person, but collectively they could just present their bits. I don't know if members are happy with that.
I'm happy to help with any slide preparation.
Yeah, okay, cool with that. Yeah, so, okay, so members happy with that decision? Yep. Okay. Sorry?
So I was looking at something that
So I think we are happy for, so I think what we're signing up to is members are happy that if they've got any comments on this document, to go back to John or Delia. Also, for the meeting on the 14th of May, it's been suggested that that the chairs and vice chairs of each committee would be prepared to talk about the work of that committee for maybe 5 minutes as part of the meeting.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
2 minutes is fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay. We'll move on. Thank you. Noted. Next item is to consider a request on the feedback to Milton Keynes Council on the street names for Newton Lees, for further plan development in Newton Lees. I don't know if anybody has read the paper and has any comments. Okay. So for those who have not read the paper, there is a list of 6 names that have been pre-approved, and these are the theme in Newton Lees is Islands of the World. So these are the approved names that we have that haven't been used so yet are Puerto Rico, Jamaica, Pewit, Burrow, Horsey and Mersey. Taylor Wimpey have suggested that we use Singapore, Coral, Moonstone and Fenny.
I think it's Milton Keynes Council that have decided to use Singapore. That's my understanding.
Oh, okay.
So that's,
sorry.
They've decided to use that one, which I think was also approved.
Yeah, okay, sorry. So I don't know if anyone has any comments or questions about those.
I think you might have a problem in Mersey because you've got Mersey on West Bletchley. It's a place called Brooklands. I live in Brooklands Road. I'm often getting letters from Brooklands.
Right.
So you might have a problem using that. The others would be fine.
Yeah. So it is Mersey, as in Mersey, and as in things.
Just make it through under the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, I would like to propose that we do not use Coral or Moonstone because I could not find any islands which are called that other than in people's games.
Computer games.
And so I do not think it. I don't think it's in keeping with the theme. I'm happy with the rest, which were Coral, Singapore, Fenny, which is member of the Maldives. And the 6 items that we have. I suggest that I would like to propose that we ask Milton Keynes City Council not to accept Moonstone or Coral because they are not actual islands of the world. And I also take the feedback from Councillor Hayne, because I know that Milton Keynes City Council have a policy of not duplicating names anywhere within Milton Keynes to avoid confusion. And it actually, the way that this place is pronounced, it does sound phonetically like Mersey Way in and also where I live, there is a very similar sounding name, but beginning with a C rather than a G over in West Bletchley. And for the first year that I was here, I ended up with lots of delivery drivers for items in. So I think it's good not to have confusion. Are people happy with that? Yep. Okay, all those in favour? Anybody against? Any abstentions? That is carried unanimously. Okay, next item on the agenda is item 9, pages 49 to 78 in your pack. Milton Keynes City Council is currently considering an application to list Bletchley Working Men's Club as an asset of community value under powers conferred in the Localism Act 2011. Any comments or questions with regards to this?
So I'm sorry that there was such a bundle of papers with it, but I think it's a while since the council certainly has looked at the listing of an asset of community value, if ever. Certainly not during my time, that's 8 years ago. The issue is really quite a narrow one. It's whether you think it's an asset that is worth being listed. It's not really anything to do with who's applying for the listing necessarily. So it's more about, is the asset worth?
Just for clarity, if this happens and goes ahead, it would prevent the property or it gives a period of time for for all community uses for that building to be exhausted before it could be sold for another purpose.
Yes, there's lots of caveats which is in the guidance that I sent out. But it certainly means that people have to be notified before a quick sale happens, and that would probably be very useful in this instance because, from what I understand, the property may be being looked after by administrators.
I think
at the moment the administrators are in at the moment looking after the building, but the building is getting derelict at the moment. The roof is definitely caved in over the ladies' toilets, and antisocial behaviour has been in the building. Yeah.
All right. So.
I had a quick question. Does this
increase the chances of MKDP potentially purchasing the site?
I mean, no, it doesn't.
No, it just means that the community group have got the opportunity to bid. Whoever is selling is under no obligation to sell to the community group who've registered the asset, or indeed any other. They can still sell to whoever they wish to sell.
Sorry?
Do we have any liabilities as our council, this building at all? Any governance, legal?
No, nothing.
Okay. So anything you want to say, Bob?
No, that's fine. Then.
Okay. Any other questions? No. Okay. So what do we have any proposals in relation to what we should do?
Well, we accept it, Chair.
That means support it.
Sorry.
I'll second that.
So we have a second. All those in favour? Anybody against? Any abstentions? Okay, I think that's carried unanimously. Okay, next item is item 10, to receive a progress report on the Sycamore Buildings project and to review a separate community consultation report determining whether the council has sufficient support to proceed with its plans. This is page 79 to 90 in your pack.
There is also a short report that's been tabled, which concerns not the community consultation, but it's just a reminder of the background and where we are, what was agreed at the last time this was discussed at council, and the current position. And if you'd like me to just summarise what the current position is.
Yes, please.
So progress, you recall that council in January, council agreed to fund the next stage of pre-contract design and tender specification work, and that work has been going on since the end of January and is nearly finished. Will and I have met with the architects on 2 occasions to discuss progress, and notes of those meetings are available to members on the press. They're chiefly just records of what's happened. We've also met with members of the former Sycamore Buildings Working Group to discuss potential changes to the building design. I don't have anything to bring to you to council on the building design tonight. The architects have advised they've got a scheduled design team meeting with 2 sets of consultants today, and a subsequent meeting with the quantity surveyor on the 4th of May. And following that, they will issue a revised programme. The programme has slipped slightly due to some additional investigations taking place. With regards to the community consultation that took place in February, and the full report is included in this pack, and you've been asked to consider that report tonight at the meeting and determine whether you think you have sufficient support to continue with the project. I and the RFO need to undertake further work in preparation for a resolution to borrow, but at the time of writing the report, that wasn't ready to bring to council today, partly because of demands of the day job, but also we need the outcome of the quantity surveyor's work and receipt of the relevant reports and tender specifications, so that we can be sure that the financial information that we're putting forward is completely accurate. We also need to produce a budget for the next financial year. Now that we've moved into this financial year, we need to have a budget for the next financial year and a cash flow forecast for the 3 months after we expect, for the 3 years after we expect the project to start. So there's still quite a bit of work to do there.
Okay.
So really, I think the main thing tonight is to consider the consultation. But I've also put in the report a note about governance, because I just wanted to remind everyone that decision making about design and any aspects, any substantive aspects of the project need to come either to finance and finance or to full council, and they can't be agreed via the former working group or the current steering groups that we have.
Any comments or questions? Members happy to note and to continue to move forward? Thank you. All those in favour? Anybody against? Any abstentions? No, that is carried.
So are you saying that you're satisfied that the consultation report, the outcome of the consultation is sufficient for you to continue? Do you feel there's anything within the consultation report that the council should be considering of the steering group or any of the experts we're working with?
Members?
Looking at the comments that were made, parking was one of the questions, and also the financial side of things, as in we're borrowing quite a lot of money, it needs to be repaid with interest. I think we should clarify to our constituents the parking arrangements, and also perhaps a little bit more about the financial planning and how it will work to benefit the community in the long term.
Okay. Any other comments? For me, there are lots of questions about operation, which I don't think that we're ready to kind of answer yet. But so that's kind of coming. Okay. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, Albert Street toilets, to approve the heads of terms for the final release of Albert Street public conveniences. It's noted that Councillor Hume has left the room.
Chair, I have not made this a confidential item, and the heads of terms are in the pack. As I did not patiently, so it might just be wise to be careful about the discussion.
So I think we will. I don't think there's much that is confidential.
No.
There's no costs in here or anything like that.
No, there's no specific costs in terms of what happens going forward.
No. So I think that we were happy as the Finance Committee to recommend this to full council. I think we suggested that there were 3 areas where we would like to see changes. One was a typo. Second was we were only allowed to open the toilets on Sundays if there was an event on in the town, which we asked to be changed, and that's been changed. We are now able to open the toilets Monday and Sunday between 6 and 11 at night. And I think the third, we actually asked for the repayment of any monies that we invested in the property to be repaid to us on. They suggested an amount which we thought was a bit low. We suggested an amount which was a lot higher, and we suggested that basically for the period of the 5 years, the cost would reduce, the amount repayable would reduce by 20% each year. They have come back and basically met us in the middle. But from the original thing discussed at the Finance Committee, without me saying the number, it is double what they said previously. And personally, I think this was all circulated to members of the Finance and Governance Committee via email. There were no comments. I think that actually we've been heard, and I think in other areas, Milton Keynes Council we've negotiated on things where we've won, and I think that this is a medium thing for me. I don't know if there are any other comments or questions based upon this paper.
I think we should accept the deals, Chair. I think the percentage reductions are reasonable for both sides. I think it's a two-sided contract, and I'm always in favour of that style. So I would accept the agreement.
Okay. So take that as your proposal, and Richard's saying is going to second it. We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Anybody against? Any abstentions? That is carried unanimously. Would someone like to tell Councillor Hume?
I'm leaving now. Don't tell me.
So item 12 is to... Is he coming back?
He's had enough.
I don't feel like I don't know.
Right, we will go on to the next item, which is item 12, which is to note the outcome of the town council nomination process for the next period of 2024 to 2028 council term and subsequent council vacancies and co-options, which will begin from the next full town council meeting on the 7th of May 2024. So before we go on to that item, I would just like to take this opportunity to thank councillors Bedford, Segabret and Connaught, who have been members of this council for the period that's just about to end. And they've, I think that for me, this has been the last 3 years have just been a really good time to be on this council, and we've got lots done, and it's actually got along with each other as well, and for me that's been great. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank the 3 councillors that will be standing down at this point.
Yep.
Okay, so that means that there are a number of co-options which could begin from the 7th of May of 2024. 1 vacancy in Eton North Ward, 2 vacancies in Eton South Ward, 1 vacancy in Fenny Stratford Ward, 1 vacancy in Manor South Ward, 1 vacancy in Newton Lees, and 1 vacancy in Queensway and Denbigh North.
Chair, could I just say there's also a vacancy in Manor North, which I omitted from there.
Okay. So also a vacancy in Manor North and Eton Lees that's been omitted. So is there anything we need to do other than note these?
I think it's just something to consider that it's really concerning that we have 8 vacancies. We have gone through the last year with 3 casual vacancies that we haven't managed to fill. And I think that the new council, when it begins, will need to think about its campaign for how it attracts candidates. There is no opportunity for an election at this stage because we're so close to the election on Thursday. So co-option is the only option, and I think that council should be prepared for the fact that it will take some considerable time to co-opt 8 candidates to bring us up to full strength.
I think that we were inundated the last election, and I think it was down to the Jackie Weaver effect and so many people stood for council at that point. And I think we need to be engaging with the community and letting them kind of find out kind of all the interesting work that we do, and actually the fun that's involved in it as well. I know that the officer team are looking to record some videos, so if you'd be interested in being involved in that campaign, advertising campaign, as to why you became a councillor and also what you feel that you've done for the community over the last period, could you please get in touch with a member of the officer team? Okay, so we'll note that.
Do you have any interest for co-option? Has anybody been in touch?
I think we've had 1 so far.
I can assure you that every person who ever contacts me for interest in co-option receives a very, very prompt response instantly. I try to be as encouraging as possible. I invite everybody to come in and see me. I send them a lot of information as an initial response, not overwhelming, I hope, just to, sufficient to pique their interest. And I go to great lengths to ensure that I get a sniff of anybody who's interested. I talk to them about it. If they choose then not to come back to me, that is something that does sometimes happen. I also get names passed on to me sometimes. People who've had their whose names have been put forward by someone else and they're not necessarily really interested. But I have quite a good return rate on the people who are interested in terms of encouraging them. But I do think it's very important that potential candidates know what's involved, because there's nothing worse than going through a co-option process with someone and they then find it's not for them and it's a waste of everybody's time and disappointment. So yeah, we've been working hard on it all through the last year.
And sometimes it might be worth telling people, like I did in my video, that they can't fail. You know, they can come here and enjoy themselves, as Keith said, and even said, we'll get on. You know, they can't fail at nothing, and they're going to make themselves look silly at all. If they get in there a bit of a problem, there's all us to help them. So they just can't fail. So a lot of people think, I can't do that because I might fail. And they've got to explain to them, it can't happen. You know.
I think that's a very fair point, actually, that one of the barriers is that people think, oh, it's not for people like me, or I haven't got the right skills or qualifications, and you know, that's not the case. So we have been trying to promote that. And the videos that have been made, we'll start releasing them after the elections are over, and start doing some more campaigning.
Okay. Anyone else got any comments to make?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just want to use the opportunity to thank everybody on the council for your support, for your discussions and comments. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself, and I'm sorry that I wasn't as present as I wanted to be this year. But yeah, who knows? Watch this space. I think the council, or you guys as a council, do a great job, an important job. And I, like Ethan said, looking back over the last 4 years, I think now that I've been on the council for 4 years, I can say that I've got a much better understanding, and yeah, onwards, and build on the successes that we've had over the last 4 years, and continue being kind to each other, even when we have disagreements, and use the democratic process to convince others of your opinions. And I think it's served us really well, and there haven't been any bus stops, or dust stops, I think it's called. So thank you, everybody, and goodbye.
Thank you.
I'd second that as well. So, you know, what you said, I would say, but I would also like to say that this council's achieved some certain things that we thought was not going to be achievable, and has engaged with some communities that haven't engaged, and that we saw at the community style. And I think you guys are all amazing. I've learned so much from you all. And I'm really sad to go, but I've got other things that I'm going to be doing, but I will still stay in touch because bigger and better things are coming my way, and I'd like to keep in touch with you all and work with you all in a different capacity. So thank you very much.
Please don't be strangers. So for all of you, please come back and see us.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And we've got vacancies if ever your circumstances change.
When we do the co-option, we'll have to be mindful that people are not coming just to get it put on their CV and we hardly ever see them. We'll have to sort of make sure they.
That's all for members. That's all for members to question people's intentions. And you know, I also think that it is down to members to decide whether they are happy to co-opt. And actually, if members aren't happy with an answer given, that is a democratic process, and we don't have to add if we as a council body don't feel that it's the right decision. So, you know, I think it's for members to kind of be involved in questioning, challenging, asking those things. I mean, don't want to drive people away as well, but you know, I think it's okay to be fair and ask people about their intentions. Okay, we'll now move on to discuss potential changes to the council's committee structure and scheme of delegations prior to the annual meeting of council on the 7th of May 2024.
Yes, given that we are only going to have such a reduced number of councillors, I've been thinking about the best way for the council to work in the coming years until such times as 2020. The previous committee structure was basically dedicated on the idea that there were 3 key standing committees and that councillors would choose one of the 3 committees. And there were 2 sort of other committees that met less frequently, being the Employment Policy Committee and the Appeals Committee. Now, it's not for this council tonight to determine the structure and the scheme of delegations for the new council, for that council to determine on the 7th of May or at a later date. But really, we need to make a decision on the 7th of May. So I personally think that continuing with 5 committees, three standing committees with quite a lot of business, is going to be very burdensome for 13 councillors. So I've been thinking about ways in which we could do things differently. One option would be to revert to a situation where there were fewer committees. In fact, there were virtually no committees. You'd still need an employment policy committee and an appeals committee, but you could go back to a situation where you have one full council meeting every month. But my concern about that would be that there's too much work. There's too much work, and there wouldn't be the opportunity to discuss things in detail if that happened, which means you would lose the benefit of the committee structure, which is the opportunity to discuss things at some length, and also to give other councillors experience of chairing, burden not all falling on the chair or vice chair of council. So looking at the existing structure, my next best suggestion would be that the Community Committee and the Environment and Planning Committee be combined, and we retain the situation of having one full council meeting every other month, Finance and Governance on the alternate months, and the Community and Environment Committee would meet in the same month as the Finance and Governance. And I think that the workload for the Community and Environment, for the combined Community and Environment Committee would work quite well. And we probably would need an events subcommittee or an events working group, and potentially a climate action subgroup as well. But those could be informal groups if they were working groups, or they could be subcommittees with no delegated powers, which met for shorter periods of time and perhaps not so frequently. So I've mocked up a calendar which I've tabled, which sort of shows you what the calendar might look like over the next 12 months if we adopted that process, that procedure. And I think it would be it's fewer meetings, but it really depends on the councillors being prepared to make a choice between the two committees, whether it's Finance and Governance or it's Community and Environment, and as having an even distribution of councillors within those two committees. The smaller we make the number of members of the committee, the smaller the quorum would be. The minimum quorum that you could ever have for any committee or subcommittee would be 3. So if you had 7 members in Finance and Governance and 7 members in Community and Environment, or the combined committee as I've been thinking of it, you would still have a quorum of 3, and that would be potentially a fairly even distribution. But if people don't want to be, if people want to be on more than one committee, you could go up to a membership of 9 and still have a quorum of 3. So I think after thinking about it a lot, this to me seems like possibly the best option, and I just wanted to get feedback so that I can prepare a scheme of delegations based on something ready for the annual meetings. We need to adopt something next week and elect to that scheme of delegations and committee structure, even if it's just on a temporary basis.
Okay, any comments or questions from members?
I think that's an excellent idea. Have we thought about, instead of sort of saying there's 9 on each committee, to say that 4 members are members of all committees? And then the quorum, I think, would be 4, but you've got to pick from 13. So it would be, you'd almost certainly get a quorum.
Well, you'd have to make the scheme of delegation say the quorum would be 21 if all members were members of all committees. you'd be in the scenario we're going to be in with full council where you've got 21 Cs. So the quorum is not 4.
It's not based on the 13, it's based on 21. Oh, no. All right. Scrub that idea.
I also had a comment on that one, and I was going to say, if you look at the council attendance record, I wouldn't want to sign up to all committees because I would not be able to attend all, and then I would have a rather rubbishy. But yeah, instead of my 92%, I would have something like 50%.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be missed.
Any other comments?
I think it's a great idea.
I think so.
Okay, so members are generally happy with that. Ish.
In principle, I think it's a great idea because, of course, it means that have more input in the various sort of workings of the council. The only thing I was going to say about the Community Environment Committee is planning has been missed off the title.
Planning has been missed off the title because planning will have to be dealt with at all committees because we've got a 3-week cycle for planning, and that is my concern about this proposed, because if you look at the calendar, I've worked the meetings based on when we need to have, primarily it's based on when we need to do the financial transactions. So the dates for the dates for full council and the dates for finance and governance align with the end of the month. It's the nearest date to the end of the month when we can produce the management reports and approve payments. And then I'll try to fit everything else in around that. And there are some gaps here and there where there will be, not many, but there are some gaps where there might be a problem with planning. I think we need to say that all committees of the council could deal with planning, have delegated plans to deal with planning, unless it was a really big application like, I don't know, like Beacon View was, for example, where you'd want that to go to full council, and there would be the scope for a long extension anyway. We could also look at the scheme of delegations and see if the delegated powers for officers to respond to planning need to be reconsidered. But this is the only way I think we can really do it.
Just a question of numbers, Chair, on each committee.
That's the existing. That one's the existing.
That's
the existing.
So what would you propose?
So I would be proposing 7 members for finance and governance with a quorum of 3, and 7 members for the combined committee with a quorum of 3. And 5 members for appeals and employment policy, again with quorum of 3. And if we set up an events subcommittee, I would say include all members of the community environment in that subcommittee, because you still only need a quorum of 3. So that you not everybody has to go to the events subcommittee. So that would be what I'd suggest, but it will be a matter for the new council next week.
Okay. All those, everyone happy with that?
It's a quick question, but you could push it to 9 with a quorum of 3 if we needed to.
You could do, yeah. If people wanted to be on, people really strongly wanted to be on 2 committees, yes, you could do that.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on. Okay, item 14. To receive reports and updates about a number of projects. Ish, would you like to give us an update on the neighbourhood plan?
Yes, so this is a meeting a couple of weeks ago with the steering group, just to discuss the timescales for the neighbourhood plan. I mean, in terms of the technical report pack, I know that that's something which we're still in the gist of doing. There is a new timeline which we are still trying to formalise. I mean, one thing that I did want to mention sort of off the back of the meeting was, again, it's really just to reiterate the importance of the neighbourhood plan. I mean, it's, of course, there's a lot of changes going on. There's investment coming in from various developments, East West Rail, there's a new city plan, Milton Keynes becoming a city. So, I mean, you know, rapidly we will start seeing changes, and this really is that opportunity for us to influence policy to ultimately shape the way that these changes take place. I mean, it's something where the steering group and the neighbourhood plan, it really does need more input from councillors. I mean, there's already a lot of input that's been put in from councillors and the steering group. The officer team has done a lot to facilitate it. There's a lot of members of the public as well that have been involved, and it should really be a public-led plan which is facilitated by the officers. And of course, as councillors, we are members of the public, and supposed to be the voice of the public as well. So it's really important for us to have that input on the neighbourhood plan. I mean, if obviously we know about these changes going on, which we will see start to shape the way that the local area is in the years to come. We need to be able to make sure that we can influence the policy now, because it is that critical time. So again, it's just a sort of gentle nudge that ultimately as much input as we can get, spreading the word out to the community, getting the community involved. There are draft policies which are out, comments on them. I mean, any feedback, any changes. I mean, this is the critical time really, and there have been some delays along the way. So there's COVID, there's been a few other bits and bobs, but ultimately this is a very, very important time to be getting involved now. And really just wanted to reiterate that. I mean, there is a bit of confusion in the public as well as amongst councillors in terms of how a lot of these different plans come together. You've got the neighbourhood plan, you've got the new town deal, you've got quite a lot of different things going on. Some supersede others, and it's quite hard to work out, where the neighbourhood plan fits into, which is, all the more reason to get involved. So, we can understand, we can explain it to the members of the public who are also as confused as some of the councillors in that sense. It's not simple, but really need to get involved to start sort of understanding how it works and how everything fits in together, really.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from members? No. So report noted. Next item is 14.2, Bletchley Town Deal. Clark, is there anything you wanted to say?
Yes, I've got an oral report. The last meeting of the Town Deal was on the 22nd of April, and the substantive issues discussed at that meeting were two of the projects from the investment plan, the transport hub and the Queensway and Aylesbury Street public realm improvement projects. There's not much which I can share from the meeting due to PERDA, but public consultation on both those projects is planned to start around the 17th of June and go on until the 8th of September 2024. Those are not definite dates, but that's the timescale that's anticipated. It's likely that it'll be a combined consultation where there'll be a high-level display of what the future Bletchley Town Centre might look like, and a focus on the sort of whole picture, because the advice that the Town Deal Board have had from Hemingway, the community engagement consultants that were engaged earlier in the year, was that residents were very confused, picking up on what Councillor Sains just said, that residents are very confused about the different things going on, and that some sort of whole picture needs to be given, and so that's what's involved. And resources are being put in to try and make that community engagement more effective, and the advisory group will be involved in how the consultation is undertaken. They've also seen the report from Hemingway about community engagement. Network Rail are now doing some more work on costing an eastern entrance. Still no commitment to fund an eastern entrance, but at least they are doing some work on it, which is something. There's a parking study with recommendations for improvements in Bletchley, which has been completed for Milton Keynes City Council by AECOM. It remains to be seen whether the City Council will adopt a specific parking strategy for Bletchley, but the findings of this report, which hasn't been shared yet, so I understand it, been taken into account in planning. I've had sight of the report. There's nothing in it that I was surprised by in any way. It's entirely stuff that we all know already. But I don't have permission to share that at the moment. But we have got representatives of the town deal coming to the annual meeting of the electors on the 14th, and Murray Woodburn, who is traffic parking guru from King's Council, so there'll be lots of opportunity to ask questions about parking and what the future plans are at that meeting. That's everything I've got to say.
Okay. Next item is 14.3, which is Bletchley Pathfinder.
And that's me. I've been attending meetings of the Pathfinder Delivery Board, along with a representative from West Bletchley Council, as well as the Bletchley clubs and the public health interventions on stopping smoking and healthy eating. The Delivery Board is currently developing a model for integrated support for complex families. And there's been quite a lot of work done on what that model might look like and how people might join up together to support complex families. I've been involved in that strand of work in a subgroup looking at how the voluntary and community sector services, which are already working in Bletchley or which could work in Bletchley, might feed into that model. And on the 15th of April, along with Councillor Weimer, who was wearing several hats at once, I think, I attended a meeting with representatives of community and voluntary sector groups to talk about their experience of working in Bletchley, what's working well and what isn't. And then on the 17th of April, the next meeting is the today. And I would say that as important as it is for the Town Council to be involved in the Bletchley Pathfinder project, it is taking up quite a bit of time to be engaged in it. And at this stage, you know, it's not clear what the outcome is going to be yet, because, you know, the model is only just being worked on and remains to be seen. But, you know, it's certainly an enthusiastic delivery board. Anything else to say?
Thank you, noted. And our final item of this council year and the council session also is 14.4, Milton Keynes City Council Parishes Forum.
Again, that's me, because Councillor Stevens wasn't able to attend the last meeting on the 14th of March, but I did. And the minutes will be forwarded to everybody when I receive them. The topics that were covered included green roofs and carbon offset fund. It was a really useful presentation from Early Boddington from the Centre for Integrated Living, which was all about accessibility, focusing on pavements in the public realm and the challenges that there are for disabled people. I thought it was really, really helpful. There was an update on policies, on the pilot that's going on with MK Connect, which sent information about to everybody, and the all-in-one card, and that was all a bit contentious. And then there was a presentation about Milton Keynes University Hospital. Next meeting is on the 13th of June, and it's a representative of Parishes Forum at next week's annual meeting.
Any questions or comments? No. Okay, so that brings us to an end with this meeting today. So, councillors, I would like to thank you for your hard work over this session, which has lasted 3 years. I think it was a bit of a shock that there was going to be an election this year, because we all thought it would be for 4 years, but something else that we can blame on COVID. Thank you so much for all of your hard work, for doing this on top of your lives, on top of your day jobs. It is great to work with you, and for all of the residents at home that are taking time to watch us online on our social media channel. Thank you for joining us, and we will be back here 7:30 next week for our annual meeting of the first session of the council, 2024 to 2028. Thank you very much. Good evening.
And thank you, Chair.
Thank you.